And then you look back and you're like, I am a totally different person. And I think part of that is because of the struggles you go through. You can't grow without struggles and being uncomfortable. That is like a big thing. You want to like embrace being uncomfortable because you will not change.
Southwest Florida is one of the most beautiful places on the planet to live. For those of you that are thinking of moving from other states to come to Florida, or even just moving to a different part of the state, I want you to think of a big, beautiful luxury home. Contact Legacy Luxury Builders. They are a family-owned and operated luxury residential construction company. As a family-owned business, they believe in the power of building not just homes, but legacies. Contact Legacy Luxury Builders. Unlock your true potential on the field and court with our Peak Mental Performance Program for athletes. Train your mind to conquer challenges, stay focused under pressure, and achieve unparalleled success. Our expert coaches will guide you through personalized techniques, enhancing concentration, resilience, and confidence. Picture yourself outperforming your rivals, making split-second decisions with clarity, and achieving victory like never before. Join us today and elevate your game to new heights. Peak Mental Performance Program, where champions are forged in the mind. Email me today, sean.french@thedeterminedsociety.com for more information. See you inside. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Determined Society. I am your host, Sean French. Today, another action-packed episode from an SEC women's volleyball team. Yes, Mallory Downing from the University of Georgia, about to tell her story that she showed up on school campus in Athens and found out just before her freshman year playing volleyball for the Bulldogs that she had a hole in her heart. Yes, a hole in her heart from a very common, very notarized virus, COVID-19. Now, think what you want about the virus. I'm not here to debate that. As you guys know, I just bring people stories, and I'm super excited for you to hear her story today. She is a specialized defender, again, for the University of Georgia women's volleyball team, and I am super happy to have her here. So without further ado, Mallory Downing, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So,
Yeah, Mal, thanks so much for coming on. Like, I was bragging on you through the intro, about how amazing your story is and what you overcame as a young adult going from high school into college, into the SEC and dealing with some things, right? That most kids going to college for the first year don't have to deal with. But before we get to the serious stuff, let's just have some fun real quick. So, favorite TV show? What is
Game of
it?
Thrones, easy.
Game of Thrones, dude. I never got
It's
into
so
that.
it's so good. It's the best. It's
Really?
the best TV show ever and will ever be created ever, minus the last season. It is just, it's a masterpiece.
Okay. So you're gonna have to tell me why, because I'm gonna tell you there is a 0% chance I'm gonna watch it. So I like the whole dragons and I don't know, but like why is that show so great? Because everybody talks about it.
Because, well, so you try and get in the first season, you're like, I can't do this. Like,
Mm,
what is going
sure.
on? Like, this is weird.
Mm.
There are so many different timelines, and the dragons are so cool. And then you just like all of a sudden you find yourself sucked in, and you've watched it for like, oh, sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay. Life
Yeah,
happens, audience.
sorry. Um, but so yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Okay, cool. I mean, my wife
Yeah.
loved it. I didn't watch it. I'm more of like a Friends guy, The
Mhm.
Office, but and most recently, I'm not gonna lie, Virgin River on Netflix. That me and my wife watched that, and then
My
I'm
mom
telling you,
likes
I don't
that.
know.
I'm not into it.
I love Love Is Blind too.
Oh, no,
Like that
I
is
can't do reality shows, no. I'm
oh,
into,
I
like,
can. Those
I love Family
for some
Guy
reason I can't.
and
That's good.
Entourage.
That's good. Okay, you're an old
Yeah,
soul because that show is
I love
bomb.
Entourage.
That's the best show ever recorded. That's the best
Yeah.
show ever. Ari Fisher, like
Oh my
Ari
god,
Gold or
he's
whatever.
the funniest TV character ever. He's so funny.
I ever. Like if they were smart, they would have done a
Yeah.
spinoff just on
Mhm.
Ari Gold, and they killed it. Like they just up and killed it, and now we just have to go back and watch that
Yeah.
excellence in a replay fashion. But it is what it is. So, all right, favorite food,
Sushi. I love sushi. I love
like it.
all types
Okay,
of, like, raw fish with all the
okay,
sauces and the rice. You can put anything in it, I'll eat it.
okay. So, where is your favorite place to eat sushi in Athens, Georgia?
There is a place called Chuck's Fish. Actually, I have 2. There's Chuck's Fish,
Okay.
that's, like, nicer. I'm gonna spend a dime. I'm going out with my girlfriends, and we're gonna
Hmm.
drink wine and have expensive sushi, or my parents
Okay.
have to take me because 'cause I'm not paying for that. And then there's this place called Shakatini where it's a little more
Hmm.
casual, and they're giving you, like, these big rolls that are, like have all this, like, crab meat and are, like, tempura
Hmm.
deep fried, and they're so good.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
so good. That sounds so amazing. All right, last fun question. Favorite music artist?
Mm. I People ask me this all the time, and I never know. I have a few. Um, I just went to the Taylor Swift concert, and I
She's
love her
good.
music, but I don't like her that much. Um, I'm honestly just because Jimmy Buffett just died, I think I'm gonna have to
Okay.
say Jimmy Buffett just to be.
Okay. I never got into his music, and in fact, like, I liked Kenny Chesney until he started doing, like, the whole Jimmy Buffett thing. I just not my gig,
Yeah,
not my
well, I
gig.
grew up my dad
Respect
is,
Jimmy
like,
Buffett.
obsessed he's, like, from Miami. He grew up
Yeah,
listening to
okay.
Jimmy Buffett, he's obsessed with it, so.
I mean, I respect it, right? I never got into it. So, all right, so let's get into it a little bit. All right, so you're from Central Florida. You played your high school volleyball and your club days there, and talk to us about your journey as a volleyball player and the type of not just physical preparation, but mental preparation it took for you to get to where you're at right now at Georgia. I mean, that's not an easy feat going to play a sport at in an SEC school.
No, it was not easy, and sometimes I look back and I'm like, "How did I get through days?" Um, and I had my heart defect too in high school that I had no idea I had.
Mhm.
So I was always tired no matter how much slept I got. I would either be dizzy or tired, and I just, like, literally pushed through that. My heart was just, like, not pumping enough oxygenated blood, but that doesn't
Wow.
even matter. I went through 6 hours, 7 hours of school, and then went to weights and practice, and we practiced, like, 3 to 4 times a week for club volleyball, and then we'd be off at these tournaments all weekend, and then we'd go right back and, like, go play another weekend. I remember one month I, like, literally didn't go to school. We were always playing volleyball, and then I was in a lot of AP courses. I
Mhm.
remember, it's obviously not as hard as college is at all, not even
Right.
comparable, but, like,
No.
for a young kid, I think it's crazy how much we do now.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. And the one thing that I can tell you, because when I was playing my junior college baseball in California, because that's where
Mhm.
I'm from, and then I got to LSU, I wasn't ready. I wasn't organized. I wasn't strategic. So, like, the one thing that I find is super important right now is time management and
Yeah.
organization for student athletes. Can you walk through, because I have a lot of younger athletes listening. What I would love for them to hear is some of the time management and organization strategies that you implement daily to really kind of go through your travel stuff, your academics, and then just game day too. There's just like a lot of stuff that goes along with it. It's not just waking up, going to school, and going to
Oh,
play,
yeah, I am,
right?
like,
It's just not.
super organized. Something about me is, I'm when you said, like, old soul, so I am, like, currently on the search for jobs. I'm a real estate major. I'm, like, trying to get into real estate, investment, all this stuff.
Mm.
I'm very organized, very on top of my school. I would say first thing, syllabi, come out
It's
yeah,
syllabi, that's
that
multiple,
big
right?
moves, like, you never
Syllabi?
know.
Yeah.
Um,
The target moves
yeah,
all the time. It's whatever.
syllabi week, you have all your dates out, you have a hard
Mhm.
copy, like, planner, like old school
Mm.
calendar planner. You write everything down, your whole travel thing down. You email your professors, you do it, tell them, "I'm missing this test, I'm missing this, I'm missing this, I just wanna front load." You want to have a good relationship with your professors, and, a big thing too, I think coming in that athletes should know is, like, no one's gonna do it for you.
Mm.
That's a big thing. It's like, you're kind of on your own. Like, my mom used to do everything for me. I came to college and I didn't know how to do laundry. I remember I moved into the dorms and I was like, "Oh," I got down to the laundry room and I was like, "What am I doing?" Like, I have no idea how to turn a laundry or a washing machine on, and then I kinda realized, like, "Oh my god, like, I have there this is just not even the beginning of it." Like, there's so much I have to do by myself. So just knowing when you come in that, like, there is a big load you're gonna have to take on, and it
Mhm.
takes a lot of effort, and that's just not even lifting weights or practicing or anything to do with your sport. It's coming in, you are on your own, you have to get good grades, you know? There's a life after sports. That's what I always say. You're a student before you're an athlete, and there's a life before sports or after sports.
Mm. There's so many good things that you just mentioned there. The first one I wanna tackle is, like, learning to do life on your
Yeah.
own. And that is something that, my ex-girlfriend back in the day, she told me, she goes, "I don't know if you're ready to be off on your own. Like, can you even take care of yourself?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I just don't have to right now." But when I get out there, it's just like you really appreciate all the things that your family has done for you, because in the midst of all the studying, all the practicing, all the weights, all the really and like let's socializing, let's just be honest. Like it's the SEC. It is an amazing social life. It is the best, right? You've been on campus for two national, football
Yeah.
national championships. That shit's badass. Like that doesn't get any
Mhm.
better, right? So like you have to juggle your personal life too, but all the while, like, oh God, I gotta go do my laundry. Like, when am I gonna have time to do
Yeah.
this? And so like, it's funny because I always think about that when my athletes, I stay really close with them. As you know, like I work with athletes, right? So I had a bunch of freshman baseball players just leave, right? And they're, Division 1 baseball players now. And I'm like, "Hey, y'all good? Like, how you doing?" And they're like, "Coach, I'm great, but oh my god, the game just moves faster. Life moves faster." I was like, "Oh no, because you were in the simulation before. Like high school's the simulation in life because you don't have a whole lot of worry,
Mhm.
right? The only thing you're really worried about is like that, where am I gonna be like next year, or the years following? But if you're really good, you have a place to play, you know where you're going. But like that's all you really were worried about is playing good, getting your scholarship, if you're an athlete, and go and have fun with your friends, trying to manage that. But like when you get into college, there's just so much more to worry about. Like you said, emailing your professors to tell them like, "Hey, I'm going to miss this test. I'll be gone this date," because you don't want them to think that you're an athlete, so you think you can
Yeah.
slack off,
I don't play football, I
right?
can't do that.
Well, that's funny because, I remember getting on campus in Baton Rouge. I thought, because LSU back then, I'm dating myself here. I was like '01 to '03, right? So I'm almost 45 years old. So that was like the heyday of LSU. They wanted in 91, 93, 96, 97, 2000. And I showed up in 2001. I was like, dude, this is going to be a cake. I'm going to walk into the classroom or whatever it is, and it's going to be fine. No, they were actually harder on the baseball players. I remember seeing football player. Oh yeah,
Really?
it was,
Yeah,
dude,
it's really just football that they're easy on. Yeah. Oh,
money,
yeah.
money,
It's football
money.
it's football
Mhm.
and then every other, Olympic sport. We call
Yeah.
ourselves Olympic sports and then football.
Mhm.
It's totally different,
Yeah.
you know?
It's funny because I just thought it was gonna be different because we were winning the national championships. I mean, we were
Oh, in baseball,
we
you
were the
guys were winning the national.
baseball. Oh, yeah. And then, I quickly learned that no, it was still football. Like, it was football. And Saban was there. That was his first year. And in '01, and then they did okay. And then in '03, my last year, they won the Natty. And from that point on, every single coach at LSU's won a national championship, right? It's just they'll win one and then they'll be average for, 6 years after that. But I digress. But no, there's just so many different things, right? There's so many different things to really juggle. And I just love for when I interview athletes to talk about that stuff because, you know, like for the young ones listening, they need to know what they're getting into, right? They truly need to understand that, the work doesn't stop once you get there. It's kind of like where it begins. Did that did that kind of hit you a little bit when you got there and on that at the playing level, like, oh my
For
God,
me,
like I'm
I think I was a special scenario because I came in during COVID and all my classes were
Mhm,
online, and the season
mhm,
was, like, split up and delayed. Um,
mhm,
but it definitely once things got, like, normal again, yes, there is this huge sense of pressure. So I didn't really feel this until my sophomore year. My freshman year, I was more dealing with, like, the surgery, coming back from volleyball, doing, like,
mhm.
1 in-person class my entire freshman year. Freshman year,
Wow.
academics was so easy because it was during COVID.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
no, my sophomore year, I remember it was my first year back in in-person classes, first normal season, um, and I called my mom, like, a week in, I was like, "I don't know what's going on. I have never
Mhm,
felt like this before." I It's like this impending pressure that, like, will not stop, you know?
mhm. Yeah, no, I feel it. And it's like it's coming from everywhere. It's not just athletically, it's academics, it's socially. It's really trying to manage your life,
Mhm.
right? What are some of the ways that you found that were useful to deal with that? Because that is an important thing to share with the audience.
So I am a huge believer in like a balance. I think student athletes, you are like you need to define who you are outside of your sport. And for me, I had to kind of go back and remember like what did I used to like who am I? I kind of had to have like
Mm.
a come to Jesus with myself like who am
Right,
I? Like
right.
how I want to be like happy again, you know? Who am I? So
Mhm,
I remembered like, okay, I love being social. I love having tons of friends and having a huge social life. But then at first I didn't do that because COVID and season and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, I need to devote time to like hanging out with my friends outside of volleyball. That was like
mhm,
number one for me, like making a social life for myself outside of volleyball and finding like hobbies for myself to do. So like
mhm,
um I would just like go on walks with a friend that I met from like another team or
mhm,
another friend of mine and I would like go on walks every Sunday and it would like during season and it would be just like those small things help so much because it just like takes your mind off of volleyball. You kind of get in this bubble during season where like you're only seeing your teammates, you're only talking about volleyball, you're only like
mm.
thinking about volleyball. It's like all the time. You're like, okay, you need a distraction, you need a release. You can't do that all the time.
Yeah, that's something that like that doesn't go away,
Mhm.
right? Like you go through, the evolution of every single year of college, every year of your eligibility calendar. Then when it's done, you go into real life,
Yes.
right? And it's like when you get into right because we talk about high school being the simulation and then college is real life and then you get into like beyond graduation you're like damn that was also a simulation now I'm into this into this real thing where it's like sink or swim
Mhm.
right so that impending pressure is always building and what I find as a professional and a coach and podcast host a husband and a father it's like if I don't find that one thing that I truly love and I can connect with, like outside of all that stuff, like the stuff that Sean likes, like I'm gonna go batshit crazy because doing this, right? What we're doing right now and having conversations with amazing athletes and professionals, like that takes a lot of energy, like out of me, right? Because you always have to be on. And I talk about this all the time. It's like every conversation I have, there's certain conversations that I've had, and people say, "Hey, that's one of the best episodes you've ever done. Like you were dialed in." I'm like, "No, I wasn't. I was an anxious mess before I hit record, and I was crying 15 minutes before because I have the life sucked out of me, right?" So long tangent off of what you were talking about of the finding the hobby, finding who is
Mhm.
Mallory. All of you that are listening right now, listening to this amazing athlete, she's wise beyond her years, talking about, finding the one thing that makes you who you are, that hobby, that love, even if it's going for a walk with somebody else other than your immediate circle that you feel like you're always around. Like it can really enrich your life. What are some of the things that you learned about yourself doing that?
I feel like I've learned so much about myself over the past like 4 years. Right now I'm kind of helping one of my freshmen out on my team. She's kind of struggling a little bit getting acclimated, so I've done a lot of reflecting, I
Mm,
feel like, from myself freshman year to now. And I kind of think like just the growth that you do over these 4 years is insane, and then you look back and you're like, "I am a totally different
yeah.
person," and
Mhm.
I think part of that is because of the struggles you go through. You can't grow without struggles and being uncomfortable. That is like a big thing. You want to like embrace being uncomfortable because you will not change if you're not. Um, I've met
This is
people who
it.
like
Here it
don't go
comes.
through anything
This is it.
and they are like
Yeah.
stay the same exact person and do not grow at all as a person. So I think that you can kind of look back as things happen to you and you say, okay, like, damn, that was a really crappy thing that I went through. And that was
Mhm.
really, really shitty. And I was really down bad during those times. And then you kind of think, okay, well, look at me now. Like, I am,
Mm.
I've grown so much from that. So I think a like mindset really plays into that.
Oh, fuck. This is like we're in it now. Like this is the flow.
Yeah.
Like what this show's about, Mallory. It's so funny when I had our friend Paris on. We hit it at minute 11. There's always that inflection point in every single episode where it just goes, "Fuck, there it
Yeah.
is." Like this is what we're here for. You're talking about the growth over the last 4 years. Personal growth is, I have goosebumps. Personal growth is something that back in the day used to be like kind of like, oh, the frou-frou stuff, like, the hippiness. But like now it's like literally if you are not growing as an individual, you are
Mhm.
decaying, right? It's either you grow or you die. And when we're playing sports and when we're peak performers in any industry, so if you're not an athlete, but you are a businessman, a businesswoman, entrepreneur, or just a sales professional, it doesn't matter. Like if you are not trying to grow as a person, like getting better and you're strengthening your mental aptitude, your mental muscles, if you're not building those, you are going to fall flat on your
Yeah.
face. When was that? So you've been through a lot of adversity, and we're going to get to exactly the one thing that I think was your biggest adverse moment, going into to school and what you've overcome so far, that I hinted to the audience. They're probably sitting there like, "Sean, it's minute 22, 21. Can you get to the actual beef of the
Can we
story?
hear about this girl's heart already?
Can we hear about the hole in
Yeah.
her heart? How she's, so we're gonna get there, guys, but I gotta build it up. Come on. The thing is, like that moment and all that struggle and all the rehabilitation and getting well, that built a stronger Mallory. Why don't you walk the audience through that whole evolution? And here's what I mean by that. The routine EKG. No big deal. No big fucking deal. We're gonna go and we're gonna get worked on. They're gonna check my ticker, and I'm gonna be all good and ready to go. Walk us from that.
Okay. So, yes, routine checkup. It was like 2 days, no
Mhm.
no leeway. Or maybe they called me like a day after. And I was like, "What's the deal? Like, why can I not practice
Yeah.
yet?" And they're like, "Okay, come back in. Like, come back in. We'll just I think I made a mistake. It was like the cardiologist was like, "It's on my end." Like, I
Yeah.
just didn't take a good enough look. And then he
Yeah.
did it again, and they're like, "Okay, something's wrong." I don't know. I think it's just a pinpoint hole. So many people have it, we can go in with a catheter through your groin, fix it up, you'll be back
Yeah.
in 6 weeks, like, you're totally fine. And
Mhm.
then, so they sent me to a more specialized cardiologist because, mine in Athens was like, "Okay, I've never dealt with something like this, I think I'll send her to Atlanta." So I met with this new doctor, we got some more tests, I don't know, I was in all these tubes and
Mhm.
all these liquids were, like, going through me, it was insane.
Mhm.
And then I remember, this was when my, like, I don't even think I've recovered from this. This is like the moment I've been struggling to recover from since, like, for 4 years. When I walked into my cardiologist's office and he was like, "No, it's this big." And I was like, "That's okay." And he was like, "Well, we're gonna have to do surgery." And I was like, "Mm." And I was like, "Well,
Back up.
what's the like, where do you surgery where? Like, where do you cut?" And he, like, did this long, like, motion down his chest, like, just kept moving his finger down his chest for, like, 7 inches, and I just, like, broke down, and he was, like, a super smart guy. Some doctors are so smart, they don't have, like, the people skills, and I asked him, I was like, "Okay, well, I mean, we'll just get it done, not too many risks." And he's like, "Oh, so many risks." And I was like, "So many risks? Like, what?"
Doc,
Yeah,
work with
like,
me here. Like,
please, I'm
be
18.
positive, dude.
I'm just 18, I'm a child, like, I can't even do my
Yeah.
laundry. I literally
Oh
can't
my
do my laundry, and you're
god.
telling me this. So, yeah, I remember that was, like, a super traumatizing moment, just him, drawing his finger down his chest.
What was the trigger point though? Like, let's talk about that because there's so much there. Like, I want this to also be a catalyst of something that helps you work through this,
Mhm.
right? So, what was it about this that was that huge point?
Um, I think I was just scared. I, like
Mhm.
I didn't know a ton about that, but I think it was, like, someone's having open heart surgery, and I think of, like, Grey's Anatomy, or, like, I've only heard of, like, people dying doing that, like, something's
Yeah,
wrong. So I think that's, like, it was just traumatizing, like, I was really scared,
yeah,
because things like
I
that
bet.
they're very, like, they're severe, I don't
Very.
it's terrible.
Yeah. It's a heart.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's not a rotator cuff.
not a rotator cuff. No, not at all.
All right, so you go in there and you're like, "All right, it's cool, no big deal." It's like putting on a Band-Aid, no risks. He's like, "So many
So
risks."
many risks.
What so many. So he's freaking you out. How long before okay, so how long until that moment until you were literally going into the OR?
I think that happened around July 20th, like, or that happened, like, around July 20th, and then they scheduled surgery for August, like, 14th, which was, I mean,
Okay.
that could have only happened because I was an athlete, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had to do it at the children's hospital because this was during COVID too, so only
Mhm,
my parents
mhm.
could be there. I couldn't have any visitors, my brothers couldn't go. I remember that was really hard for them. Um
Your brother just had a birthday, by the way,
Yes, he
right?
did, he just turned 34,
Happy birthday,
yeah.
big guy.
Um,
That's all.
but yeah, I remember they couldn't go, no one could go because it was during COVID, which was sad.
That's scary,
Yeah.
man. Dude, that's just like the whole other icing on the cake,
Mhm.
right? So for those of you that are listening and have your thoughts about COVID or whatnot, we know we don't get into them on this show. I believe in everybody's right to have their opinion and their experience based on that virus and how its role played in their life. But for like an 18-year-old already a scary moment. You can't even see everybody that you love so much. That is just the most fucked up thing on the planet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it is, you know? How did you how were your parents through that? They had to have been
Oh my
scared.
gosh. My mom probably lost, like she probably went from 120 to 95 pounds.
Oh,
Oh,
poor thing.
yeah. They not well.
Not
Yeah.
well, yeah. I can imagine it's just really hard as a parent to be strong in that whole situation because, as parents, you wanna be as strong as you can be for your children. You don't want your children to see you buckle. You don't want them to see you scared because you wanna, give that vote of confidence like, "Hey, you're good. You're good." But I mean, there's only so much you can do as a parent because you're also human, right? And we have those feelings, so I can imagine that your parents were extremely worried. Hell, like when my kids fall down in the street, I'm like, oh no, especially my daughters, my little girls. I got two little girls, a 7-year old and a 4-year old. And when those girls get hurt, it like crushes my
Yeah.
heart, and it's a different thing. So, all right. So let's get back to obviously an adverse situation. You're not playing that year. You get surgery and, beginning to middle August. To talk to us about the recovery and like just kind of where your mind was because you did mention mindset. So how did you work on that and how did you utilize it to stay positive?
So, mindset was not okay. I wouldn't say I can't
Mhm.
say that I came out super positive. I would not say that at all.
Yeah, you'd be crazy if
Yeah,
you did. I don't care
it
what
was
any
not
I don't care
the
what
case.
anybody
It was
said.
a really,
Yeah.
really tough couple months.
Yep. Mhm.
I remember the pain. I never felt a lot of
Mm.
pain before. I had, like, torn ligaments and stuff like that, but, no actual pain. So, what they do during open heart surgery is they cut your sternum in half with a saw, and then they retract your upper chest bones, like
Mhm.
your whole upper bones area, and they retract it, do the surgery for an hour, put it back. Um, and that pain, I it was insane. It was just like you can't breathe. It like hurts to breathe. And then I remember like I went back to the hospital because I thought I was dying, but I was just really in so much pain. So my
Yeah.
mom forgot to
Yeah.
give me an oxy. It was like an hour. She messed up my schedule, my med schedule by an hour. She forgot to give
Shit.
me an oxy, and I am like freaking out, crying, "I'm
Mhm.
gonna die, like, you have to take me back to the hospital." I went back to the hospital, had a $20,000 ambulance ride from Athens to Atlanta for them to tell me, like, "You're just in pain." Um, so that was, like, what's crazy, and now whenever I'll randomly get, spouts of pain around here. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Ah, it's a popular girl tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
seriously.
so I'll just get, like, random, spouts of pain, and, I will freak out. Like, it's kind of like when
Oh,
I feel
no.
certain pains, I am like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, it's happening again." Like, that feeling of not being able to breathe, like, if I breathe, it's gonna hurt too much to breathe, so I can't breathe. It's really
There's so much trauma
oh
there,
my
dude, and
gosh.
so it's like it's not the pain that and I'm gonna guess here. What I would assume from this conversation is you it's not the pain that's getting you to freak out and put you in that spot. It's the trauma from what happened. And you're like, "I can't go back there. Am I going backwards? Do I gotta deal with this
Yeah.
again?" There's something to be said about that, right? Because now you're in your senior year, correct?
Yes.
So you're in your senior year and you're playing and you know you're not back to where you were, right? But we can like the human mind is so funny the way it works, right? We like to play this game where we go, oh no, this is like that time before, right? It's like that time before. And then we draw all that anxiety and play on the emotions of maybe 2 to 3 years ago in your case. But for me, I can date it all the way back to when I was a child.
Yes.
It's a crazy thing. How do you manage those emotions?
Jeez. You you have to you when you have those emotions, you can't ignore them. So you can either I've
Mhm.
learned you can either totally avoid them, which comes back to bite you in the butt. You don't wanna do that. It
Mhm.
works temporarily, but then you find yourself having
Band-Aid.
dreams that you're crying. You're like, "Why am I dreaming
Oh,
that I'm crying? Like, that's so weird." Um,
yeah.
turns out you just suppressed, like, a ton of emotions. Um,
Yeah.
or you you feel the emotion, you name the emotion, you talk about why you're feeling like that, and you try to set a goal for the next day of, like, how you can fix it.
Mm. It's crazy. I did some content just like that the other day. Like, name the anxiety. It was for sports parents though, right? That they're just like crazy when they're watching their kids play. Cause that's like another thing, right? Like, parents can get super loopy while
Oh,
watching their
yeah.
kids play. Holy shit. Like, it is a whole nother podcast. It's a whole nother topic. But like, naming the anxiety and really moving through it. A couple weeks ago, I had my friend Brittany Richmond on the show, and we talked about moving through instead of pushing through, right? And this is exactly what you're talking about. The pushing through for athletes and for individuals is like suppressing that emotion. I'm just going to push. I'm going to push because that's what a good worker bee does. We push and we go, right? And we're going to work hard because that's what we do. And then like a month later, emotions are all over the place. It's like that one day where you just wake up and you're just so cooked mentally, like, and emotionally. It's like you spin out,
Oh, yeah,
right?
you
We've
have a
all had
spiral that and it won't.
we have those moments. Like, we all have them. Like, I have them in this business. I have them in this show. It's like one day you wake up and you're like, "Oh my god, I am an anxious mess and I have to get out of this." And for me, like, to be honest, like, I've always been very real on my show and telling people where I'm at. Last week was that week for me. That was my spin out week. And it was hard to get back on track, right? But what I did was I didn't push through it. I moved through it. I called people. I let them know where I was at. I'm like, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
Oh, yeah,
I shared
connecting
my
with
life.
people that you have deep connections with, that is a huge one.
You have to, right? And for me, like, I really opened up to my wife. I'm like, hey baby, this is how I'm feeling. Like, I'm feeling like I'm getting depressed. Like, I know this is temporary. Like, I just need your help. And we talked for like, I mean, she talked to me for about, I don't know, probably 40 straight minutes of breaking me down. Like, this is who you are. This is how I know this is where you're at. And here's how we fixed it last time. So can we repeat that? And I'm like, okay. And then I started executing on that on Monday, and it is Wednesday and I'm already feeling better because she knows me so well. So for everybody listening or watching, is like, reach out to the people that aren't going to make you feel better, but reach out to the people that know you the best, right? That can really give you insight if there's a pattern, right? Like, hey, you're going through this pattern or this is your cycle. Now, this is how you're going to get out of it because we've done this before. But it's just super important to open up because, how many athletes out there and how many individuals aren't opening up right now, and they're making decisions that cost them their life. It's happening a lot, right? So the idea and what works is, this is how I'm feeling. Can you help me get through it? Right? Because that is moving through something, right? And we're not saying shut down and stay in bed and don't do anything. We're saying acknowledge your feelings and still move. Like, literally, and your 100% may not be the same that day. You know, like, there's times where if I'm feeling that way, and if I know I have to go to the gym because it's on my schedule, I'll just go 100% of what I got, right? But like, you build those mental muscles at that point, right? Like, I just think it's super super important to talk about.
Yeah, for Sure. I mean, a feeling is just a feeling. It's nothing
Hmm.
but a feeling. So, it's just a thing
Hmm.
in your mind that everyone gets. It's not who you are.
I love
Mhm.
that. It's not who
No.
you are. Just like when you're performing on the courts or on the baseball field, football field, or whatever sport you play, your performance is not who you
No.
are.
It is not a reflection of who you are. You are so much more than your performance in a game, at practice, anything.
It's one of the hardest things to drive home. It really is. Because as an athlete, we grow up and we are judged on our performance, on how good we
Mhm.
are. We are treated based on if we're a good athlete or not. Now, your experience in high school is completely different than the other girl that's not playing in an SEC school. I'm gonna tell you that right now, right? And that's not okay, right? And so it's like these old school coaches need to start learning a little bit, right? Of like, okay, I need to start praising attitude and effort over talent, right? Because that's what matters. That's that person, right? And I mean, I always found it disheartening that, I can take it all the way back to 2003. That last out was recorded and my baseball career was done. I didn't know who I was.
Yes, I am about to be
I didn't know who I
facing
was.
that. Yeah.
But you're much smarter than I was back then. You have much more insight. You've been through so much, right? I mean, I had my injuries. I had a blood clot. I almost
Oh
died
my
too. Like I
goodness.
mean, it was nuts. It was nuts. It was my going into my sophomore year in junior college. Scariest moment of my life, right? Thank God it was from an injury. They called it a trauma event instead of a blood disorder. Because if it was a blood disorder, I would never would have played again. Like dream over, gone, right? But like that whole thing of, at LSU, like I never materialized to what I know I was capable of because I had that blood clot in my sophomore year in college. And then when I got to LSU, I had a torn up arm and I got hurt. And so I'd have surgery. And it took me 2 years to come back. But it's like, was it just my weak mentality? Like, I think it was. I think I was scared. I was scared to fail. So, like, it goes through this whole cycle, right? If we're not careful, like, you can really impact the next 2 to 3 years of your life by choosing to feel one way about yourself. It's scary,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why I love talking to athletes because and really working with athletes is because, like, y'all gotta know that this is just something that you do. It may feel like this is who you are, but, like, and you seem to already believe this, but I'm gonna tell you, when you're 44, you're like, "Oh my god, Sean, that's, like, so old. That's, like, ancient." But, like, when you get to that point, you're gonna look back and you're gonna have 0 regret because you fought through something so big, and there may have been moments where you weren't at your best mentally. But I can tell you, like, my passion for this comes from the simple fact that I do have regret, and I my mission is to make sure that every athlete I work with and have a conversation with doesn't leave anything on the table, right? And they understand who they are when they leave. They understand when they're done with their sport. And I think it's so important because you're already on that journey. You're already looking, like you said, at jobs. You're a real estate major. You're going for walks with other people. You're exploring who you really are, right?
Yes. I go in to this sometimes I get, like, if I'm too deep in my thoughts, I'll start to think, like, how would I have been as an athlete? Like, I wish that didn't happen to me. I would have
Mhm.
been such a better athlete. I could have done A, B, and C. I could have done whatever. I could have been way better. But then it's like this trade-off of would I be who I am? So
Mm.
I a part of me is like, I wish that that never happened to me and I could have done this and been a better athlete, but then I'm like, I don't know if I am who I am. And then I'm like, I wish I
Yeah,
knew what I knew now 4 years ago, but also you can't just know.
Yeah, you can't. You have to go through the things that you went through, and now you are who you
Yes.
are. And then, like, in 4 years, you'll be like, "Oh, man, I wish I would have known that then what I know
Mhm.
now." It's like the evolution. Like, if you're not saying that to yourself every few years, you're not growing. Like, you're not. And it's super important because you mentioned earlier just, the value of knowing yourself, right? The value of truly knowing who you are and what you stand for, I think is super important because otherwise, all the other things, especially the noise that you guys have these days, like, dude, we didn't have Facebook when I played baseball. We didn't have
I
anything.
wish. I
We
I wish.
Dude, we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have MySpace. Nothing. Nothing. It was just like the only thing that we were worried about was getting off the bus and like, oh God, are the fans pissed? Like, that's the only thing that we were really worried about, or the people, coming to the, stadium to watch us practice and, you know, acting like it was the actual College World Series and it's just an inter squad game. Like that's what we had to worry about. We didn't have social media. I don't know how you guys navigate it now.
Oh, I am, like, the least I try and keep that away from my life as much as possible. The only
Mhm.
thing I'm like, if I'm on TikTok, I'm looking at, like, funny videos, like, there are,
Yeah.
like, sports highlights. I think that when I hear, like, especially, like, some of the younger girls talking, and they're saying, like, "Oh my god, and I saw this girl on Instagram," or like, did you see the pictures that," well, I don't know. It's, like,
Mhm.
not good. It is
No, it's not
not
good.
good. This whole comparison mentality that younger people are going through is not
Mhm.
healthy, and they really never are gonna know who they are because they're always trying to compare themselves or be someone that they are not.
I mean, that means, they're never gonna be
Oh,
happy,
never. Like,
right?
they
Because
would
they're
always
gonna get to
wish it,
one
you
level.
know?
They're like they get to one level, they get to another level, there's a new
Mhm.
devil, like every single time. That's anything in life, right? Like new level, new devil. It's one of my sayings. Like, but the other thing is, the moment you continuously compare yourself to others, you are robbing yourself of the joy of being in the present. And like that's what the present is. It's a gift. It's like a gift. You're here. Just like the dude in the elevator said to you, day's great. I woke
Yeah.
up. Dude, like, it's like something like some people say, but you can tell when someone says it and they actually mean it, right? It's like, dude, I love that. It's impactful. But listen, we got to land the plane here. I absolutely love listening to your story and thank you so much for telling it to the audience. I know it's gonna touch some people that are going through things right now. I want you to think about this. For those of you listening, or finishing up listening to this episode and you hear Mallory's story of adversity, open heart surgery at 18, fighting through that, especially during the hard times of COVID, where her whole family couldn't even be present to watch her get better and to be there to support her. And, ask yourself, are you really having a bad day? Because, I was thinking about this earlier and I told Mallory before we hopped on the recording. I was listening to one of Manny Frisella's shows today, and they had a guy named Nick Jones on the show talking about his experience in, January of 2020, and they were still, hunting ISIS members. And he literally saw two of his, brothers get killed. And I sat there and thought to myself, like, man, is my job really that bad? Like, is my life really that bad? Like, I haven't seen that in my life. And so when you hear other stories, ladies and gentlemen, it allows you to appreciate what you have and to be grateful for what you have and who you are. So, you know, Mallory, thank you so much
Thank you for
for
having me.
coming on to
Yeah.
the show. Absolutely. You're awesome. Best of luck the rest of the season. Go dogs. And when I hit stop on record, just go ahead and hang out for a little bit. And everybody listening, thanks again for sharing the episode. We have this past week has been a crazy uh, listen um, listen week. You guys have downloaded over 2,000 episodes, 2,000 plays. I thank you guys so much. I love you all. And share this episode out with the athlete you love so much. And until next time, y'all be determined. Southwest Florida is one of the most beautiful places on the planet to live. For those of you that are thinking of moving from other states to come to Florida, or even just moving to a different part of the state, I want you to think of a big, beautiful luxury home. Contact Legacy Luxury Builders. They are a family-owned and operated luxury residential construction company. As a family-owned business, they believe in the power of building not just homes, but legacies. Contact Legacy Luxury Builders. Unlock your true potential on the field and court with our Peak Mental Performance Program for athletes. Train your mind to conquer challenges, stay focused under pressure, and achieve unparalleled success. Our expert coaches will guide you through personalized techniques, enhancing concentration, resilience, and confidence. Picture yourself outperforming your rivals, making split-second decisions with clarity, and achieving victory like never before. Join us today and elevate your game to new heights. Peak Mental Performance Program, where champions are forged in the mind. Email me today, sean.french@thedeterminedsociety.com for more information. See you inside.